up, everyone? So today we're going to be reading Chapter 3 of who is Thomas Alva Edison. And Chapter 3 is Tom and his boys. In 1869, Tom arrived in New York without a job. But Tom had no trouble finding one. He was already known as respected as a smart young man with exciting, original ideas. He was someone who could make things. New York City, 1870s. Tom had no problem finding work. After a while, he and a fellow worker started their own business, making and developing new machines. That's what they do. The company's most successful machine was called the Universal Stock Printer. All day long it sent the changing price of gold to businesses on Wall Street. Tom had developed the printer, and he sold the patent for it to Western Union for $30,000. With this money and two investors, Tom started his own company in 1870. He found a large building in Newark, New Jersey. For his Newark Telegraph Works, he continued working on his inventions, but the company also manufactured or made machines to sell. Tom was always working to improve any kind of machine. And companies like Western Union came to him to make a machine they needed or to fix problems with machines they already used. Working for Tom meant working long hours. He was at the office in Newark all the time. He knew everything that was happening. He kept detailed notes. He made sketches of his new ideas. He worked harder than anyone. Tom believed for his own experience that doing something yourself, like making a machine, was the best way to learn. One day, a young woman named Mary Stitwell came to work at the company. She and Tom fell in love. She was 16. He was 24. 3 months later, they married on Christmas Day. But even on that day, Tom went to Mary Stitwell, worked for a few hours, and Mary quickly found out that Tom would spend much more time at work than at home. Over the years, the Edisons had 3 children. First came Marion, then Thomas Jr. Their father fondly called them Dot and Dash. After Morse code, then came another son, William. Tom loved his family, but still he had to spend more time at work than at home. This was not easy for Mary and the children. Often his wife was lonely and frustrated. Most inventors worked alone. Tom was different. He liked working as a team as long as he was the boss. He hired the best man he could find. He needed a draftsman who could draw his ideas on paper, machinists who could make things from his sketches, and men who understood what he was trying to do and come up with improvements of their own. Tom called them the boys. They called him the old man, even though he was only 24 years old and younger than many of them. A few of his boys worked with Tom for 20 or 30 years. In these early years, Tom figured out a way to send telegraph messages at once, 2 in one direction and 2 in the other. Someone else had already figured out how to send and receive 2 messages before, but twice the messages in less time. He called it the quadruplex. Electric pen. He also perfected electric pen. The writer wrote a message with the pen. A small motor powered by battery moved the point of the pen up and down, pushing small holes into the paper to make a kind of stencil. Then the paper with the message on it could be inked onto other pieces of paper with a roller. The message could be printed over and over again. After 6 years of new work, Tom felt that it was time for a change plan. He wanted to spend more time investing instead of manufacturing. He, he found a small farming community in New Jersey called Menlo Park. It was about 25 miles from New York City. It was just the right place for his family and his boys. About a dozen of them. New Jersey's pretty big, but New York's bigger. Edison's Menlo Park compound. See?
Mm.
In 1876, Tom bought two largest plot of land and began planning a building. He had a two-story building for his laboratory. The office and the library were in another building. There was a carpentry shop, a machine shop, a glass blowing shed, and an engine house. He even built a boarding house where his boys could live. Tom had a large house built for the family. But having them nearby didn't mean that Tom was homeward. He was rarely home for dinner. Even when he promised Mary he'd be there and never home for lunch. Young Mary and sometimes got to take her father's lunch to the lab. She was the lively, curious one. Unfortunately, her brother Thomas Jr. was often sick. Sometimes Mary found her father going over work with his boys. Sometimes he'd find him sitting at the sample table, backing away from Tom, from the bustle going on around him. If she was lucky, Tom might give his Dot a dime to buy candy. Mary had loved to visit. Even everywhere she looked were strange, half-built contrivance on the work tables, shelves packed with jars and bottles and cubby holes, full of feathers, stones, and other interesting materials. Tom and his boys loved Menlo Park. They were glad to be away from the bustle of New York. They didn't even mind when Tom removed all the springs from the clocks so that no one would pay any attention to what time it was. They still worked long hours, but it was on Tom's time. Sometimes Tom never got home at all. He slept in his clothes on a bench in the lab for a few hours and then go back to work. Menlo Park was the perfect place to think. Tom once said, "The man who doesn't wake up his mind's to cultivate the habit of thinking cannot make the most of himself. All the progress, all success springs from thinking." His Menlo Park, his invention of factory, his team of boys worked on as many as 40 projects at a time. The more successful Tom made, the more attention he got. Investors came to see him. Magazines and newspapers wrote articles about him as inventions. This is actually a long book. Tom liked the publicity. The more that people heard about his inventions, the more people would want them. Bell's telephone diagram. It was around the time that Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. Tom wished that he had thought of it first. So did Western Union. They wanted their own telephone to compete with Mr. Bell's. They worried that the telephone might replace the telegraph. The famous inventor of the telephone, Alexander Graham Bell, was born in Scotland less than a month after Edison was born. His mother, a talented pianist and painter, was almost totally deaf. His grandfather, his father, and Bell himself taught deaf people. His father invented visible speech, an alphabet of symbols, which helped the deaf learn to talk. Bell moved to Boston in 1871. He was interested in electricity and like Edison, worked successfully on improving the telegraph. This led him to the invention of the telephone. In 1876, he spoke the first words to his assistant, who was in another room. Watson, come over here. I watch you. Touching it. But no, that wasn't right. That wasn't right at all. Sorry, guys. But Bell's telephone had problems. It only worked over short distances, and you had to shout really loud to be heard. Western Union asked Tom to come up with a better telephone. What the telephone needed was a different transmitter. That's the part that transmits or sends the voice from one phone to another. It is located in the part of the phone that a person talks into. When the sound of the noise reaches the transmitter, it vibrates or moves back and forth. Sounds change into electricity, which can travel long distances over a wire. Mouthpiece, Edison's carbon button. See? Bell's transmitter was made of metal, and that was the problem. It didn't make strong enough vibrations. Tom had to find out what material would work better than metal. This took time. Tom and his team worked day and night. It was Tom who came up with the answer. One day, Tom scraped some carbon off and broke a broken piece of glass from an old oil lamp. Carbon or lamp black is the black. Scoot a candle of an oil lamp gives off. Tom rolled the carbon between his fingers as if it were soft clay. He made two button shapes. He put one next to Bell's metal transmitter and one right next to it. That's an oil lamp. You see?
Oh, yeah.
Touching it. When they vibrated, the electrical current carried a strong, clear signal over the phone wire. Problem solved. Tom was disappointed that he didn't invent the telephone, but his carbon transmitter made telephones work better, and his transmitter led him to a wonderful invention of his own. No one had yet come up with a way of recording and paying back a person's voice. Tom was about to do it. His invention was called the phonograph. Chapter 4 is his invention factory. Hey guys, don't you know this book's very long?
That's okay.
Yeah, it is okay, I would say, but that was like 14 or 15 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just make sure to subscribe. I got 2 new subscribers, and I'm at 76. Alright? This is Owen, signing off.